Welcome, everybody, to episode 3 of the Talk Ons show. I know we've been a bit inconsistent because of, just some things going on, but we got some good games this week. As always, we have your hosts, Chase and Cam, today with our names. I am Chase, a.k.a. Kalen Labor, and we have the wonderful Cam, a.k.a. Iowa Steak.
Iowa Steak.
Name.
Iowa Steak.
We got a good session here. We're gonna actually try and make this one short for once. So
we promise we're gonna do better. We're actually gonna start doing better. Okay.
We've only got 2 segments because we seem to spend 4 hours on one segment anyways. So,
bro, I got to turn this off. First of all, I don't understand why this freaking was so loud. I had to turn it down. Okay. There we go. That's a little better.
All right. At least we got the intro out the way finally.
Yeah. It's very painful. But as he said, we're been a little inconsistent lately. We, haven't been posting like we wanted to post, but I mean, we get to it when we can. Life is life. So, but, we had to make sure we got it in this week because we got some good games in week 5.
Well, it's the biggest game so far, that's for sure. One of them.
We'll talk about that. But first, we didn't do a review episode of week 4's games. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and show you guys, just to kind of catch everything up. We've updated our top 15 based on the week 4 performances. So let me go ahead and share that. Come on, bro. Oh, dude, we're so pro.
It's always your fault.
So, dude, we're pros.
It's the MacBook, I'm telling you.
Wait. Where's it at?
Makes everything 10 times harder.
Hey, we got it, guys. Check it out. The professional, objectively official Talk Ons top 15.
Well, looks like the little overlay is like blocking out our number 1, although I don't really care. Nobody should care about our number 1. So
I see. I accidentally had that live with StreamYard overlay on it. Once again, it doesn't get any more professional than this. Like, you're not going to get any better sports talk show than right here with the Talk Ons. Iowa Steak.
And Kalen the Boar.
But anyway, as you can see, we have our top 15. We got Texas at number 1 because obviously, they're staying there, because just on cruise control right now. They've made their space there and they're just cruising.
Yeah, if only their first SEC game was actually worth anything, I'm not going to sit there and act like Georgia's was, but Kentucky's definitely better than Mississippi State. That's for sure.
Yeah, they'll probably be on cruise control for a while, but they may not stay at number 1.
That's true. There's not really much to say about Texas being at number 1. They've just been the most consistent, I guess. And they have the roster to match every other team here, so, and the coach.
Yeah.
So, and I think we decided last time with like Georgia and Bama being here. Like, I know Bama's looked better than Georgia, but I still think Georgia. I think it's just the decision can be made easy this Saturday. It's like no point. Like, they're both undefeated. I know technically Alabama has looked better, but like literally this weekend they play, so we'll just let them on the field because I really think this game this weekend. Well, actually, I won't go into any detail until we talk.
I don't think they look all that better, truthfully, though, because Georgia had a bad week against Kentucky, but Georgia also between the two is the only one with a top-ranked win where they dominated Clemson. So, I think it'll be decided this weekend. There's no point in moving it around until after this weekend. And Ohio State, we got them at 4 just because, they've been on cruise control. They've got the roster, they got the talent. Ryan Day, they've proven themselves to be an elite playoff contender. And the reason we bumped them to 4 and Tennessee down is because even though Tennessee beat Oklahoma, it's still, I think I and my co-host Kalen the Boar here, we both saw some things about Tennessee that warranted us, it raised some question marks, raised some flags. Like,
Yeah, I
seeing some
definitely think
holes
that
here.
yeah, I definitely think that everybody says that the score is not indicative of how controlled that game was from Tennessee, but I also think but I just don't agree with that because, let's not forget had Oklahoma just, it was the turnovers from Tennessee. And that's sort of the argument is like, oh, well, they had two turnovers and still were able to control the game. And it's like, that's because both turnovers were immediately, literally first play after that turned over
They were
by Jackson Arnold. I can tell you right now,
given right back.
if Jackson Arnold does not do that, and like you have Hawkins in there, and at least to prevent those like problems, Oklahoma's at least getting two more field goals. And but
The game
anyways,
might look different,
the game would
really.
have been much. I mean, they fumbled the ball. Tennessee fumbled the ball on the 5 yard line and was recovered by Oklahoma, and then Oklahoma fumbles it literally next play. It's like Oklahoma doesn't fumble that ball. And I think, we could talk about, well, turnovers are part of the game. Yes, but exactly like Tennessee turned the ball over and that was bad on them. They can't be turning the ball over on the 5 yard line against a team like Alabama or Georgia or Texas or Ohio State, like, because those teams are going to capitalize on that. And you're going from, I think at the time, even when they fumbled that, it was like 19-3, or I actually might have been 12-3 at that point or something. That game's completely different. It's 12-10 now. Now Tennessee's on the ropes. So
They got away with some dire mistakes against the Oklahoma team that although Oklahoma's defense is top tier competition, their offense, I mean, I don't really want to have to gash them, but that offense is pretty booty. It is.
yeah, no,
And
the
I mean,
offense is bad. I mean, there's no
and
like
that's why
bad.
Oklahoma's
There's, I
not
mean,
in this top
just
15, regardless
just
of how good their
if I'm going
defense
to see,
is.
we'll see how they do in Auburn. See if Hawkins can, because even against Houston and stuff, their offense just didn't look good. If Hawkins can go out there and get some really good production for this, and we can see him put at least 30 on Auburn and Jordan Hare, then I think that okay, you know what, maybe we can start considering putting Oklahoma back in the top 15 because they without a doubt have a top 15 defense. I am fully convinced of that. Their defense is incredible, and people could say what they want. Oh, well, Tennessee could have dropped 30 more points on them. If they could have, they would have. I hate to break it to everybody. If they could have, they would have. If the argument is because, oh, they didn't want to hurt or they didn't want to strain themselves, why do you think they would have strained themselves? Oh, because putting 30 points on that Oklahoma defense is not easy whatsoever. I don't think they could have. They were barely pushing the ball in the run game, and they had a couple of breakout touchdown plays. So
I think their
I mean,
offense was showing struggle
their offense showed a
against
lot of
Oklahoma's
weakness.
defense. And
I think
and their
the
defense
only
did
thing I can
too,
give the only thing I can
that
give
Oklahoma
Tennessee credit
didn't
for that
capitalize
game is
on.
that Josh Heupel surprised me with his game management. And I think that's what people are talking about. Oh, well, he could have just put the, and I'm like, no, he knew he needed to manage that game because of how Oklahoma's defense is. You don't just, you don't just take a game slow because there's a reason you take games slow. If you're in the rain, you take the game slow because you're in the rain, and it's like you can't really air the ball out. It's really risky, slipping, and it's like that's why you control the game when it's raining. Well, when you play a defense that's extremely talented like Oklahoma's, then you have to control the game. You got to lead. Why bother destroying your team trying to play such a good defense when you can just control the game? Oklahoma's offense isn't moving the ball, so why should you bother trying to move the ball? And that's what I'm saying. It's like I think if they could have, they would have. But Josh Heupel knew it was a mistake to keep trying to because they already had two turnovers. That game could have changed. I just disagree. I think 25-15 was indicative of the score because I think we don't give Oklahoma's defense enough credit. I think the argument about Tennessee going easy is just ludicrous. I think Oklahoma forced
That's a
Tennessee.
terrible argument.
Oklahoma forced Tennessee to take it easy because Tennessee knew they couldn't move the ball like they were expecting. They were 63.7 points per game offense. You can't convince me that they decided that game that it's like, oh, well, we could put 60 points on them, but let's not. No, that's not how it works. If you could put 60 points on a team, you're going to put 60 points on a team. It's just the
Yeah, I mean,
harder the team
there's
is,
no,
the
oh,
more
we're gonna take it.
risk
There's no
you take.
taking it easy when playing a ranked matchup.
Well, but the thing
There's
is that the
that's a
reason
bad
you take, well,
excuse.
even if
Like,
they did
what
take it
are you
easy, the
talking
reason they're
about? Nice
taking it
try,
easy,
buddy.
even if they're taking it easy, the reason you're taking it easy is because Oklahoma is not a team that you can easily put 50 points on. So, like, the arguments, but Oklahoma
You take it easy
played,
when you're putting your backups in after you've already ran away with the game. Tennessee never really ran
yeah,
away
no,
with that game
they
per
had their
se.
starters the whole
There
game,
was
kept like,
no.
they
But anyway, I
tried the
mean, I
whole
think we've
game, and
talked enough
Oklahoma's
about Tennessee and
defense. But
Oklahoma, but
anyways, I just needed to get that
that
out
is
there.
why Tennessee is where they are, and we just wanted to put that out there as far as the state of Tennessee football. And I think me and my co-host here, we saw a lot of holes in Tennessee's play against at least a opponent that's good one-sided to show, maybe they don't need to be in the top four. But moving on to six, Miami on cruise control, of course. Cam Ward doing his thing. Miami's defense looking pretty stout. You know,
Also, not much more you can say about them. Really haven't played anybody.
like
Still
I
don't
said,
play
yeah, they're
anybody
not
this
really,
week.
yeah. But they look good. They have the roster for it to be in this top 10.
But
I mean,
yes,
we'll see for sure later. Ole
they used to
Miss,
be one of those
uh,
teams that would struggle against teams that like they should just clean the floor with, and now they're actually doing what is expected of a high quality ACC program. So, we got to give them their flowers on that. So,
kind of look like old Miami in a sense. Kind of looks like you get a little light of that. But
yeah,
uh,
they had Ray
number
Lewis.
seven, with number seven, we got Ole Miss, who moved up from our last rankings, I believe. Um, I
I think
believe
they
they
were just
switched.
8, right? I think we just dropped Missouri 2 and moved Ole
Yeah,
Miss and
Ole
Oregon
Miss
up.
moved up to seven because although they really haven't played much of anybody yet. I mean, they're killing opponents, running up the scoreboard. I mean, they got the players. Lane Kiffin is a really good coach. Um, and we got Oregon at eight, which I think maybe it's just because Ole Miss's roster is a little more established, and their coach, Lane Kiffin's got quite a bit more experience than Dan Lanning. So I feel like that kind of gave us putting Ole Miss a step above Oregon. But
I think that game's still a pick 'em though, really. Like if you were
yeah,
to
yeah,
put Ole
yeah,
Miss and
that would
Oregon together,
be a hell
I
of a
wouldn't be
game.
able to decide who.
But Oregon, they had a bye week this past week, I believe, right?
Yes, I believe so. And I actually
So not much to say
they play
there.
UCLA this week. So a team that LSU just wiped the floor with. So
Yeah, but I
but
mean, hey, it's
Missouri,
UCLA.
we moved Missouri down to number 9 for obvious reasons. You can't go in there. You can't have Vanderbilt come because I know Georgia struggled with Kentucky, but at least they had an excuse to struggle in Lexington. You had Vanderbilt come to Como and you know bring you to a double overtime, and you're
Will it?
losing. There's no. It was close. It also you kind of got away with a shanked 30-yard field goal. So
Well, I
Vandy
mean,
looks better this year than they have in the past years, but like they still look bottom of the barrel.
yeah, somebody that a top 10 team should struggle with, hardly. Not at home, more or less. But I think it was more so not just the Vandy, not just to rag on the premises around Vandy. Because, I mean, who knows how good they really are this year? I mean, we'll see.
Well, they
But
did
it's,
lose to what was it? I can't remember who Vandy lost to a team they probably shouldn't
well,
have lost to, but they have
it
a bad
was
loss.
back to back. You had back to back struggle games at home against both Boston College and Vanderbilt. And like I said, I want to give these teams credit because they both look good, but make a top 10 opponent struggle like that at home, I don't know, man. Mizzou looking a little sus right now.
That's right. It was Georgia State. Vanderbilt lost to Georgia State and then came into Como and
Well,
Missouri got rid of the wire, and
you
you
get
know,
you lose to Georgia State, you're going to try to make a statement going against a top 10 opponent. So they had a somewhat of a mental edge, I guess. But
at least Missouri so far, Missouri hasn't lost a game. Clemson, I honestly, again, I think you put Clemson and Missouri on a football field together, especially neutral site. I think that's a great game. Um, the thing is that Missouri's undefeated. Clemson, I think they're a good team, and I know this isn't the worst blemish to have, but getting beat by 4, 5 scores, it was almost 5 scores by Georgia. That even if it is Georgia, it's like if you want to be high up in the top 10, like you can't be getting beat by 5 scores, even if it's Georgia. It's like, especially with the fact that Kentucky was able to take it to the wire. It's like, okay, maybe Georgia, maybe you shouldn't be losing by 5 scores to Georgia. So, but
maybe.
I still think Clemson should be top 10 because give them the benefit of the doubt. You're, this is, first game of the season, and generally, you know, I mean, we saw what happened to Oregon that one year when they got beat 49-3 by Georgia, and they ended up finishing 10-2, having a fantastic season. So it's like sometimes, and I think it's just because Georgia, for some reason, tends to just seem right their first game. I don't know, and then that's they come out, blow everybody's minds first game, and then they end up doing like they've done now and literally put everybody's doubt on them. Like we talked about it earlier, and we'll talk more about this, but the media, just there's no faith in Georgia now after what they've done with the top three. So, but we'll save that more for later, or with that for their first three
Well,
games. So,
yeah,
but
and I think Clemson has shown a lot of promise in their recent games. Not that they've played super competitive top opponents, but they've been beating these opponents how a top 10 team should beat them.
yeah,
And I mean, NC State was able to run up 30 plus points on them, but let's be honest, that was trash time scoring against
it
the
was all
backups
trash
that
time, but it
Clemson
makes me
has.
wonder about the depth of Clemson though,
Does make a question
because
though of depth,
other
but
teams in the top 10, when they're in trash time, you're maybe getting one or two more scores. NC State did drop like 3 or 4 scores in the fourth quarter. So it's like,
yeah, but
that's
how
not
far
the best.
through?
But, in Clemson's defense, they also they got to a point where they in the first half, they were beating NC State worse in the first half, like twice as bad in the first half as Tennessee was. So,
I mean, Clemson
um,
looks good, and this is Dabo Swinney's Clemson with a really good roster, championship worthy head coach. It's and people have been talking about the fall off with Dabo and Clemson, but we're maybe speaking too soon. I mean, do I think that they would beat uh, the top three teams that we have, or even top four teams that we have right here? Maybe not, but they're still a top 10 contender.
I
And I
think
mean,
they can.
truthfully, with the depth argument, how far do you get in the top 10? There's only so many elite recruits. There's only so many top football players out there. Like between all these teams, like how far down through the top rankings can you get before you start to run out of elite recruits to have as backups? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
depth, there's a limited amount of depth that these programs have to share or not share, but compete for. So,
I'm just sad we don't get a Clemson Miami regular season game.
oh, we don't?
No. It's
Okay, well,
Miami has a pretty lax schedule.
take both of these teams off right now. I'm deleting them right now.
No, Miami's schedule is atrocious. So I'm gonna be worried for them if they somehow make it into the playoff. If they do end up making it into the playoffs, I'm gonna be worried for them because they're not gonna have a test whatsoever until the playoffs. So um,
Penn State, though,
Penn State, good
at number
defense as
11.
always. Uh, Mediocre offense never fails. They've always got a mediocre offense. I've never had faith in Drew Aller as a quarterback. Still don't. That's why I would put. I have more faith in Cade Klubnik for Clemson. They've
Alar.
shown. They've shown more explosiveness and just better offensive play overall than Penn State has in any of their games. So that's why we have them above. But again, Penn State's undefeated.
They had a
Good
bye week,
defense.
so we weren't gonna,
Had a
punish
bye
them
week
for
and we weren't
that
going
per
to punish
se.
them. So,
Still gonna see how good they. We'll see how good they are soon. Um, they got a good matchup coming up. Not the biggest matchup, but a pretty considerable matchup that we'll talk about later. But Penn State stays at 11. We're just going to put faith that maybe they'll, you know, some of these teams, really most of the rankings, some of it is too soon to call. So it's kind of hard to start picking and choosing between some of these rankings. And Penn State, we'll see what they got. But USC, I think they moved down in our rankings.
Yeah, I think we had the top 10 at one point. I think we had two,
Yeah,
but
but they lost to
we moved them down
Michigan.
because they lost to Michigan. And I know a lot of people are going to look at this and be like, "Well, we don't go by the belief in that head to head always immediately means you're the better team." Because in USC's defense, they did have to go to Ann Arbor, and you know they pulled it and forced Michigan into a last minute drive
A
to
last
win the
minute winning
game.
play.
So,
So, I mean, USC
well, it wasn't like
controlled most of that game, arguably.
so,
And I'm not going to take anything
no, they
away
didn't
from
control most of the
Michigan.
game. Michigan controlled first half. USC came back second half, took the lead, and then Michigan had to make a last minute drive. It wasn't a last minute play. They won fair and square, but
Yeah,
I do think that USC on a neutral field, I think I would still take USC again over Michigan. Like I would probably take USC mainly
yeah.
just because of the hell that USC gave Michigan in Ann Arbor. So, but I'll give Michigan credit. They still look like a good team. Run game is solid. Only thing is, though, I'm not moving them any higher than 15 because they obviously have no passing game whatsoever so far. So, like their quarterback is just Jalen Milroe, but without the arm whatsoever. That's what it is. So, Orgy is hell of an athlete, but there's no passing. Like I think they passed for like 40 something yards on USC. So,
I mean,
um,
yeah. You on a neutral field, we'd take USC.
and
And
obviously
like
in
he said,
USC, I'd take USC probably to cover whatever,
yeah.
like cover by a score or so. So,
And like he
um,
said, Michigan, okay, yeah, they pulled it out against USC and Ann Arbor, but we got to all kind of be real here. Michigan is not one of those teams that is going to do what they did, lose what they lost, and then the next year just be right there in the same competitive fashion. It
no,
does
it's
for
obvious.
Michigan. It's not like that. It's not like that for Michigan, and arguably they're just going to be resetting here, but still garnered respect to get a top 15 spot because I mean they beat USC and they've got a decent record right now. They look like a good team, more or less. So, they get their flowers and make it to the 15
Right.
spot for now.
Well, so
LSU,
yeah, good game against UCLA for LSU. They they beat up on them like they needed to. A little bit of struggle in the first half, but they pulled away in the second half. So, I mean, it's not much I could say else about LSU unless you got anything on them.
I mean, LSU, I don't know, with Brian Kelly at the helm and the talent they got, they're a good team. But I'm still struggling with how I feel about LSU. Like, to me, in my mind, when I look at LSU, I just see them like in superposition in like the bottom five of the top 15. Like they don't have
Right.
like a definitive spot for me because they're so, I don't know, LSU's wishy washy this year. I mean, I think they're a great team, but I've just seen a lot of wishy washiness and give them their credit, put them at the 13 spot because I think they would beat both teams below them in the top 15. But I don't know. We have to see. Brian Kelly's got that defense has got it. I don't know. They got to show more structure and consistency, um, and control games better. They control pretty well against UCLA, so we'll give them credit for that. But
Yeah. I guess since we talked about this, I want to mention the top 15 because I talked about earlier. The way we build this top 15 is that head to head will matter somewhat. If you go into somebody's house and you get handily beat like 14 points, and it's we kind of eyeball the game and just kind of look at what is considered. I think it's kind of the beauty of football is that every game's so different that you really have to watch the game. You can't just look at the score. You have to watch the game and see exactly what's happening, to really understand who the better team is. And that's sort of like, you never know, like, because we mentioned that it's like, well, we'll make the decision that Alabama beats Georgia. Well, what if, you know, a freak turnover or something is what, let's say Georgia, like what if, what if you're in like it's like Georgia's just into the game trying to run the ball to end this game, or vice versa, it's Alabama or whatnot, and they're leading this game 24-20 or something, and then a freak scoop and score happens or something, and it's like that's how what ends the game 27, 24. It's like, who really was the better team? It's like one freak turnover like that at the end, and then it's like, oh well, the team who had the freak turnover. Well, what if there was a freak turnover by the other team earlier? It's like you got to watch the game. You really got to make a decision. So,
Yeah,
and
the
it's home
numbers
field
don't tell the
advantage.
whole
It's like
story, including the score,
I will most likely. I think this is one of those games between Georgia and
depending on the
Alabama where it's going to be pretty
gap.
obvious who the better team is here. It'll be pretty obvious who the better team is here. So usually that's how it goes. So I, but actually, I don't know, because I will say I think Alabama. I think the biggest difference between Alabama and Georgia is, and maybe it'll be different with Kalen DeBoer. Nick Saban always had Alabama prepared for these big games. They'd have a whack game, just like the Kentucky game or whatever with Georgia. They'd have a whack game, like they had the Auburn game right before the SEC championship. And honestly, I still think Georgia was probably the better team than Alabama that game, but they were the better team as a whole. Alabama was the better team that day. Georgia played just bad football. They didn't play up to their
Yeah,
tier.
I
You
think
know,
that's a pretty good. I
I
think
think you.
that's a
I
pretty good
think
way to
you.
put it. Is that you have a team that can be better in general, and then a team that just played better that day.
Yeah, and
We'll
we'll take
we'll talk
injuries
more
into
about
account, but yeah, we'll
specific matchups later.
which I guess we
Um,
mentioned, like Utah 14, they've won, they're undefeated, they've kept it going. They looked really good against Oklahoma State until they kind of they almost blew it in the last quarter, but they stood their ground at the end and made sure they got the win. I think they got a really good defense. Their backup quarterback actually looks pretty solid. Like he looks like he's going to be
that's
a
the
good. I
main
don't.
thing for me. My biggest
Yeah,
question was, okay, well, without Cameron Rising, like if you lose Cameron Rising, is your season over? Can you still compete? And I hate thinking that way because football is a team sport, but quarterback's very impactful. Um, and if you don't have a guy that's good behind, if Cameron Rising's the only thing you got, it's like,
yeah,
you lose that one player, that your whole game plan falls through, your season falls through, you're not it.
mhm,
But that's what I've liked to see in Utah, is that their backup looks good. So it's like,
yeah,
maybe they can still kind of keep chugging along. Now, I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves on Utah in terms of their AP poll ranking, and the media, their
what are they,
stance on
10 right
Utah.
now?
They're number 10 in the AP. And I think maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves because Utah is good, but top 10 in the country, Utah, I ain't trying to offend any Utes out there, but I don't really think you guys are that guy. Not top 10. I'm just saying. Like, we haven't
Mhm.
seen that yet. Um, and truthfully, Utah doesn't have the staff or the roster to make you know, a precedented, claim to a top rank. Like Utah's a program, we have to see it to believe it. So I think 14 is the best that we can give Utah from what we've seen so
Yeah,
far. But we didn't have Utah in the top 15 because they lost Cam Rising and they looked like they were going to struggle bus on a downward slope. But when we saw the performance against Oklahoma State, a good opponent, and their backup quarterback perform well, we were like, all right, let's put them in. Well, Utah has earned our spot in the top 15.
right. And I'll say this one more comment about the top 15 itself. I think right now we're just going to go with like similar to an AP top 15. And I think maybe halfway through the season, we'll, or further in the season, once there's more information and it's easier to make a playoff prediction, that's when we'll start maybe doing like a top 15 playoff prediction where we can start actually
Yeah.
putting teams at but I just don't think there's enough information right now to like really
Oh
like
no.
make a decision on like where we want to put a playoff prediction. Top four conference champs, like what the heck? Like, come on, that's so hard because you have three SEC teams right now in our top four. So it's like we have no clue. But again, answers will be given throughout the season. Georgia's got to play both Alabama and Texas, so that top three
We'll see.
obviously is going to change. So
There's going to be a lot of movement, granted, but this is the best that I think anybody can really do right now alongside the AP.
yeah,
So we'll see what happens. I mean, and we already, as far as number 15, we already talked about Michigan. So we've covered our top 15. So you are now looking at week five's version, the updated official Talk On's top 15.
yep,
Bang, bang.
the greatest top 15 you'll ever see.
The greatest top 15 ever in week five. This is going to be the final 15 at the end of the season. Remember all that.
Yeah,
All
I think
right.
it's pretty solid because we
So
actually didn't even
that's,
have to move it around that much from last week. So,
I
but
mean, look,
anyways,
bro, we've already said in previous episodes,
okay,
we're right.
don't
We're
come
just
out here
right.
with
We're just
because
objectively
because
right.
our predictions
We
that first episode were god awful. So
well, we had to rush it. And I'm not going to give too many excuses, but I mean, first of all, we didn't have a lot to work with because in the beginning of the season, there's not all that much to work with anyway. But number two, for anybody who watched the first episode, there was confusion on how long of a time frame we had to do the video. I thought that the 2 hour mark was, we were going to have to cut it off. So we kind of, once it got near the 2 hour mark, we literally tried to fit in a bunch of predictions in the last 5 minutes, or what we thought was the last 5 minutes. So we kind of rushed it.
well, how
But
about we just because we're making good timing this time. We're on to our
we're
second
moving on
segment
to
and we
the picks and
30 minutes
predictions.
in the first one. So let's go picks and predictions. We're going to go straight into that. I think you guys know what we're
We're
going to
doing
save
good,
for
guys.
last. So
Well, obviously, we're going to save what most would agree is, if not all, would agree is the biggest game of the week and
it's
biggest game
without
of
a
the year
doubt
so
the
far.
biggest game.
Um, so we'll save that for last.
Of the
But
season
which one are
so
we
far.
talking about first? Uh, let's see. Should we talk? Since we were talking about Utah, should we just go ahead and get the Utah Arizona matchup out the way?
Yeah, let's do it. What's the
Okay.
line on that one?
So, I don't know.
Here, I'll check it real quick.
I'll let you look up the lines because I don't feel like I've got my games and stats already set up over here. I don't want to have to move around too much.
Utah
Um,
is the open line is 12.5. So, but I let's go by the 9.5 spread. I think honestly, I think it's
so
12. Let's go 12. So they're a 12.5 point favorite right now. So
okay. All right. Well, do you want to talk about it and make the prediction, or do you want me to?
I can talk about this game. We can
All
start
right.
out.
Go
We talked about
ahead.
Utah already. So defense looks good. And I can tell you right now, the problem with Arizona is their offense has not looked great this season whatsoever. Utah, you let Bowman throw on him a little bit in that fourth quarter. I think once he kind of got a rhythm way too late, it worked out. Maybe just kind of caught Utah off guard. But Arizona's weak point is their passing. I don't think they're going to be able to pass on Arizona at all. And I think Utah's got a good front seven. I don't think Arizona's running the ball on Utah. And Utah's quarterback, no matter who plays this game, I think they're going to have some offensive production. Kansas State did, and they absolutely wiped the floor with Arizona. I think Utah is the better team than Kansas State for sure. So I think Utah wipes the floor as well. I'm going to take Utah to win and cover Arizona. So
Okay. Or
they're
do
12 and
you
a
want
half
to
point
give?
favorite. I think they win by definitely at least 2 scores. So
So Utah. Okay. Um,
do
I
we want
don't
to give
think.
score predictions? If we give score predictions, we might make ourselves look dumber than we
I
should. But
mean, how like good can, because the thing about it is I don't think score predictions are really, I don't really think there's a point because so many infinitely circumstantial
yeah, I
things can
mean it's super
happen.
difficult. So, but I
But I
will
think it's
definitely
better
take
to
them to
like
cover.
judge it by a differential of the score, the final
So
score,
I
just
think
in
they win
general.
by 14 probably. If I was to give a prediction, it would be probably somewhere on the long lines of like 24-10, 27-13 or something like that.
So your
So
boy Kalen the Boar has Utah beating Arizona by 14 points, which um, I don't think Utah's better than Kansas State, but I will agree Utah needs to beat.
bro, Kansas State just got ran by BYU. It was like
Well,
38-9.
and I think maybe that was a freak sleepwalk game. But then again, we may end up talking about BYU later because they just may be that
Maybe.
good this year. Who knows? Because they always sneak in somehow, but in the conversation anyway. But yeah, I definitely think Utah. There's no reason Utah shouldn't at least beat Arizona by 2 scores. So unless Arizona just with a bitter taste in their mouth decides to show up. So
Yeah. But I don't think that's going to happen because it's not really. I don't unless they had a bye last week, but they. I mean they might. They had a bye last week. They might get their bounce back. I thought they did. They might get their bounce back game. Who knows? So, but I just don't think. I think Utah's defense is just. I think it's better than Kansas State's defense. So I just don't see Arizona. I'll give them. I'll give them 10. Like I'll give them maybe 10 or 13 points because I think maybe they'll come back and bounce back somewhat. But no.
all right. Well, I guess I'll do the next one, um, which I guess we can just gloss over Virginia Tech and Miami, um, just because talk get some of the top 10 games out there, but some of these just go gloss over. And I think Virginia Tech actually looks somewhat like a decent team this year. I mean, they've been pretty competitive. They haven't looked terrible. They lost to Vanderbilt, which who looks somewhat decent this year, and in overtime. Um, you know, Granted, I mean, it seems that they've lost to every Power Four opponent they've played so far, which has been Rutgers and Vanderbilt. So, I mean, but Virginia Tech for a while has been Virginia Tech. So,
I mean, I think if we're comparing though, like the Power Four opponents that they lost to might have only been by one score, but it was Vandy and Rutgers. They're playing Miami now, so just
I
keep that in
mean, I think I mean, obviously, I'm taking Miami. I mean, I'm taking Miami to win this, and they're playing uh, playing at Miami.
mind.
So,
Yeah, I
with that
mean,
being said, and looking at everything now, um, Virginia Tech is coming off of a loss against Rutgers at home, so I think maybe they'll have some mental fuel,
yeah.
and maybe they'll make it harder for Miami to blow them out. But I'm going to take Miami.
You taking the line is 17.5, so you think you take them to cover?
I'm taking them by 26.
Okay, then they're
I think
covering. Yeah,
Miami beats Virginia Tech by 26. I think
yeah.
they more than cover.
I agree. I think it's a beat down. I don't think Virginia Tech's going to have a good time in Miami at all. So
No, no, they're not. But anything can happen, man. It's college football Saturday. I need to get better at like typing the way that looks because it just says Miami dub 26. I didn't do that very well. Um, anyway, next up, a another quickie, Michigan and Minnesota.
okay.
You want to do that one? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think this one's probably actually going to be a little bit closer than what people think. I think my Minnesota has always got a little bit of fire under them to some degree. The line is 10.5, Michigan 10.5. So, Michigan has good defense. They definitely have a good defense. I don't think the problem is Minnesota's, I don't know. It's tough because Minnesota Michigan's just passing offense is what worries me. So, but I mean, Minnesota, I'm pretty sure just got flat out destroyed by Iowa.
They're playing in Ann Arbor
and
too.
they're playing in Ann Arbor. That's true. Ooh. I think just based on because of the way they played against Iowa, and they're going to Ann Arbor, that's going to be such a hard comeback game. I don't see Minnesota breaking a comeback like that. I think it's pretty obvious. I got to take Michigan to win and cover.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
I
going to
think
cover
that's
the 10 and a
pretty
half. So
straightforward. So you think
I don't
you're
think
going to take
Minnesota's
them by
stopping the
the
run game.
you're going to take them by the you're going to take
I'd
them to
say
cover like the exact.
if I want to give an exact score, I think Michigan wins by 17.
Okay, so you think Michigan wins by 17.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's pretty fair. So Caitlin the Boar is taking Michigan by to beat Minnesota by 17. I think that's fair enough. But
I'm
we
trying to
might
fight
be
myself
surprised.
because I know you wanted to make those quick games. I'm like trying to like go in depth about it. I'm like, oh wait, no, I need to just be real simple, talk about offense and defense. So yeah, I just don't think
Yeah, let's just
Minnesota's
keep
moving
it
the ball on
simple and
Michigan.
straightforward because
So
we got some other games we could talk about anyway.
I don't think
Um,
Michigan's putting more than like 30 on anybody because their offense is so one dimensional so far. But
right.
I don't think Minnesota's putting anything more than like maybe 10 on them.
Okay.
So
Well, let's talk about should we just get the quick runs out the way and then we can start talking about the deep
yeah,
dives?
let's do the deep dives real quick. We'll go ahead and do that. We got pushing
So you
like,
want to do the deep dives first and then do the or are you talking about I was saying do the quick ones first, get them out the
oh
way
yeah,
and
no, no,
then do
get
the
the
deep
quick
dives.
ones way out though. I don't know how many
Okay.
more we have. I don't want to
Uh
do too much time on the quick ones.
yeah, let's not spend too much time on it. But we only got a couple more of the quick ones. Okay. So Kentucky at Ole Miss. Pretty true to nature SEC matchup. I believe this is Ole Miss's first SEC game.
Oh, go for it. You're the one who told me you thought it was upset alert off camera. So
Why are you doing this? You wouldn't even let me say it. Why did you do this to me? Um, upset alert maybe. I think Ole Miss can easily be caught sleepwalking because Kentucky's had a pretty rough season so far, but they are also a capable team. They got some talent, and I think when they play their best game, they can be competitive at least. And Ole Miss, I don't know. I mean, I'm
this will be the best defense by far Ole Miss plays
this
so
is going to
far.
be the
I
best
will say
defense Ole
that.
Miss has played. Ole Miss is not going to. I don't believe they're going to run up the scoreboard. They may make me eat my words, but I don't believe they're going to run up the scoreboard.
The one thing about the comment you made though is that sleepwalking, I don't think they will because Ole Miss now has the proof that, because I doubt Lane Kiffin's looking at that Georgia and Kentucky game and going, "Oh, Georgia just sucks." I'm sure he's looking, okay,
That's
maybe
true.
Kentucky is a problem.
They have a reference
So,
point now, so they'll
so
probably
they're
be
like,
looking for that.
we don't want this same thing happening. So I don't think that Lane Kiffin's going to let his team
Yeah, that Georgia
sleepwalk.
game didn't happen in a vacuum. That's a good point.
Yeah. So,
Um, okay, well then I'll probably back away from that upset alert then just because of that.
and it's in
Um,
Oxford. So
it's in Oxford, but I think Kentucky, we don't truly know what Brock Vandergriff and that offense is totally capable of yet because they're still, he's still getting his bearing. They're still kind of moving their wheels a little bit. But I think maybe it'll be more competitive than people think. But I'm going to take just because it's in Oxford, and yes, Lane Kiffin. It's going to be hard to catch him sleepwalking now because Kentucky they gave the flag against Georgia. They showed their red flag against Georgia. Um, let's see. Um, I think I'm going to take. I'm going to take Ole Miss to win. I think they win by 17.
I think that I wouldn't be surprised if Kentucky held them under 40, but I also don't think Kentucky's scoring much. So
It's hard to say because Ole Miss's defense, we really don't know how good they are for sure yet, and Kentucky's offense, in good faith because of just the nature of how things are working for their team, their offense may get progressively better. So I think I'm going to take Ole Miss by 17, but I think Kentucky might, they might show some competitiveness in that game.
So that means, because I like to look at all the lines on the game, so that means you are actually okay, just barely covering
So USC and Wisconsin playing at USC.
at USC. Yeah, USC I think is going to take this one pretty handily. Wisconsin could not handle Alabama's passing offense, and I think USC has a great passing offense too. So, in fact, I think USC is a little more versatile as a passing offense than Alabama. So, I don't see Wisconsin stopping that. So, I'm definitely taking. I'm going to take USC to win and cover, and I think USC wins by 20.
Okay, so you take USC by 20
Yeah, I'm going to
against
take USC
Wisconsin.
by 20. So,
And I don't know who Wisconsin played last week, or did they have a bye? I don't remember, but
I'm not sure who they played last week.
I think that's fair. I think USC by 20 is fair because I mean, yeah, Wisconsin just isn't all that this year, and USC's they're looking good.
Yeah.
That's I mean, enough said. Really, I think that's fair.
Wisconsin is probably going to try and want a bounce back game, but again, I don't think this is a team you're bouncing back against. So
Right, and you're
USC's
playing
defense actually playing against Michigan really, I don't think they have near the defense that everybody thought they had. But I'll give Michigan the benefit of the doubt. They've always been a great running team, so I think that's just a hard team to stop on the ground. Period. But I mean, I know this isn't a comparison, but Texas just completely stopped every bit of run they had. So it's definitely possible. And
yeah.
USC, we all thought, oh, look at this. Lincoln Riley's finally got a team with defense. And I don't know, rushing defense is still a bit underwhelming. So, but we'll see. I
Well,
still think they do fine. So
well, all right. We got quite a few more games to talk about,
yeah,
even the big ones. So let's go ahead and just go
let's
quicker
just
on
go to the
these.
big
So,
ones. I think we just go to
uh,
the big ones.
well,
I'm trying to shoot this at like an hour 15.
what about Mississippi State and Texas? Just because it's Texas's first SEC game. I mean, I don't think there's all that much to say, but
Mississippi State looks terrible. That's literally all I could say. Don't know what's going on with them. Obviously, it's kind of tough to lose your coach and Mike Leach and then have to do all this. So it's just been rebuilding for Mississippi State. So that's the benefit of the doubt. I didn't expect him to be anything great, but getting blown out at home by Tulsa doesn't look good at all. And then your bounce back game is bad too. I don't see Mississippi State doing anything against Texas. I think Texas wins this by, 28 or more, so
okay. So you've got Texas winning by 28 plus.
because
It's yeah,
they're in Texas. I mean, come on, Mississippi State is just done for. Like,
Mississippi State being just kind of a bomb this year. And even yeah, it's Texas's first SEC game, but this is not one of those competitive SEC opponents. They're not right now, and they're playing at Texas. They have the liberty of playing their first SEC team in Texas, and it's not a good team either. So Texas is definitely they're going to win this. Um,
yeah, I don't think
and
there's much else that needs to be said about this game. Mississippi
yeah,
State, Ewers is probably going to be painting on a canvas.
if he
So
starts, but even if
that's
Arch
right. I
Manning
forgot, but
starts,
Arch Manning will be painting on a canvas.
yeah, because it's
So
Mississippi State, bro. No, no offense, but hey, all right. So
I think we
we
get to
got
the. I think we get
Ohio
to the.
State at Michigan State. That's their first Big Ten game.
I think Ohio State beats him pretty handily. I think you would probably agree. I mean, I don't. It's at Michigan State, so maybe we hold back a little bit, and maybe they don't win by 28 or something. But I think they win pretty big.
it's their first. It's Ohio State's first Big Ten game of the year. They're on the road, but it's Michigan State, and we know the state of Michigan State right now. So yeah, I'm taking Ohio State. But I think maybe they don't just run the scoreboard up on Michigan State. But then again, I, I don't know, man. I'm gonna take I'll take Ohio State by 22. I think
Mm-hmm.
they win by at least 22. So that's my take on the Ohio State game. And one more, and Ohio State, their schedule is but they will play some more competitive Big Ten opponents and
They
Power
play
Five
Oregon at some
opponents. So
point, and that'll be the
we'll
telltale.
see.
So
And they play Penn State too.
yeah, all right. So I
So
think we get to the big games now. We're
all right. Well, let's talk about one last quick one. Oregon at UCLA. So Oregon, can you still hear me?
yes.
Okay.
I'm just
Uh,
I feel like we should be getting to the big games soon.
well, I'll just say this: Oregon, I think, is a playoff contender this year, and UCLA, I feel like, is just one of those stepping stone, add a number to the wins, game for Oregon. They're playing at UCLA, and I think they'll give them trouble, here and there, probably at the beginning of the game, especially UCLA coming off a loss to LSU. But I'm still going to take Oregon, and I think I'm taking Oregon by 17 against UCLA. So that's what we doing now. All right, now let's get to the nitty gritty. Let's get to the good ones because, I guess, we could have done better on the quick ones, but I think some of the quick ones we kind of spent too much time on.
Well, I was trying to get you to run through them. I was trying to get you to just skip them.
But one that is somewhat of a quick one, but somewhat has some implications is Oklahoma at Auburn.
This one is mainly just I think this is I think important just because it's bounce back for Oklahoma. It's time to seek in Oklahoma because that's part of it in the SEC is like you had a tough game, tough loss in Norman, but now you got to go to Jordan Hare, and it's time to see what they can do in one of the hardest, if not the hardest place to play. I mean, it is. There's juju at Jordan Hare. It's
Yeah,
famous for.
the
It's
Jordan
famous
Hare
for it.
Juju. It
Yeah.
is one of the hardest places to play in the country, and in the SEC, arguably the hardest. So
You
Oklahoma's definitely got a real, this is going to be a real test for them to bounce back on, as you said. So who are
because
you
then
taking? I mean, Auburn is they're bad. They're not good this year, but Oklahoma's offense is bad. All they really have is a defense right now.
I
So
still think you play this in Norman. I think Oklahoma wins very handily. It's Jordan Hare. Don't know if I have all that confidence in this new Oklahoma team playing in Jordan Hare, but I have enough confidence in their defense to just completely stop. I don't think Auburn's putting really anything. I don't think Auburn's putting more than 13 on them. So I think with Hawkins, I think they'll get some movement with the ball. I think Oklahoma. I still think Oklahoma wins by. I think they win by 13. Oklahoma win by 13. I think.
all right, the Boars taking Oklahoma, winning over Auburn by 13. Um, I don't know about 13 points if I'm going to be real with you. I think we may see something closer to like maybe by one score because, Auburn in Jordan Hare, their defense is going to be capable. And not that they're anything crazy, but Oklahoma's offense is, we already know. So unless they make some huge improvements with Hawkins starting or something, maybe. But yeah, I do think Oklahoma does come out on top in Jordan Hare, but it's going to be interesting to see them because I think this is their first time playing in Jordan Hare. At least, I mean,
I'm not sure I
obviously,
look at that, but it definitely has been years. So
it's the
if
first
so,
time for this team, and
it's the first time for Brent Venables, I would assume.
this
So
coach, and they're it's SEC game. That's their first SEC road game, I think.
it's a bounce
So
back game too. So jitters are going to be there, I think.
make
So
it count.
eagerness is going to be there.
All right. So we got Oklahoma State at Kansas State.
This is I think this one is just going to go down to Alan Bowman. I really do. He looked pretty poor. He actually had to get taken out the game against Utah. Maybe that was just because Utah
Mhm.
was putting him in god awful positions and he just couldn't handle it. I don't think Kansas State's going to do the same. I think Bowman's going to have a good game. And I just don't have any. I maybe BYU is much better than I'm thinking. I just don't have the confidence in I don't have the confidence in Kansas State. They got pummeled, but I picked the last one. So
BYU stands for boys you underestimate.
okay, maybe we'll see. But I'll let you talk about this one and choose a score because I did it for the last one. So
Mm, I think this is going to be interesting. I think this is going to have the most implications for the Big 12 right now because, yeah, BYU, I'm just going to assume that they just kind of caught Kansas State sleepwalking and got the best of them at home. Um, because I don't really think BYU is. Yeah, they've shown some sparks here and there before, but I don't think they're going to be anything crazy. Um, and it once again, it's hard to say about Kansas State because it could have just been just a really bad game. I don't know. Maybe the stars just aligned for them to get whooped by BYU in some way or another. But I think this game has the most implications right now for the Big 12 and Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma State is the Big 12's version of LSU, wishy washy. They just, when they play good football, they look like a top 15 team. And then some days they just play bad football. And they're kind of on the fence for me, and both of these teams are really. I think Kansas State is more complete on both sides of the ball. I think they're more balanced than Oklahoma State, and they're playing at Kansas State. Um, so you know, I think truthfully, it's probably going to come down to maybe a shootout, and the question is, who would win in this shootout? And just because of the weapons, including Bowman at quarterback, I'm going to take Oklahoma State winning this because I believe it's going to be a shootout, and I think Oklahoma State just takes it with their star talent, and I think they win. I think Oklahoma State. Um, I think they win by 10 because I think maybe it's a field goal difference for a lot of the game going back and forth that maybe just Kansas State, mucks up and Oklahoma State scores capitalize. So I'll take Oklahoma State by 10.
yeah, I think against Kansas State, Bowman will get the protection he needs this time, and he'll have a good game. So
Yeah. I think
so
they lessons learned in good faith they'll probably come to win against Kansas State.
all right. What's our
All right.
next game?
So the next one, I guess we can talk about Louisville and Notre Dame. Louisville is at Old South Bend.
Well, of course, I have to take this one after first
I'm
episode. How I
gonna let you
dogged on
take it,
Notre
bro.
Dame.
I'm gonna let you take it.
All right. Well, as we said last time, Notre Dame had a fantastic bounce back game against Purdue, and they made me eat a little bit of crow because I honestly thought that they'd have much more trouble. I knew they were going to beat Purdue. Um, but here's the thing: they whooped up on Purdue 66-7 or something like that, and then they go and they play. They have Miami, Ohio, come to South Bend, and they struggle again. It's like 28-3, I think, was the score. And in fact, I feel like they
28 to
honestly,
10, actually.
no, it's 28-3.
Was it?
Yes, I don't. They obviously defensively they seem fine. I think they got a good defense. South Bend apparently must be their weakness
Oh,
playing at home.
28
Like
to 3. You're
they
right.
played, it's only one away game for actual like, you know, But actually, no, I say one away game. Both away games they won handily. Like they beat Texas A&M by 10, had a great game against Texas A&M. Then they lose at home to Northern Illinois, and then they go to Purdue and absolutely blow the top off that place. And then they struggle with they struggle a bit with Miami, Ohio at South Bend. Sadly, sorry Notre Dame, this game's at South Bend, so you're probably going to struggle a little bit, especially because it's
Yeah,
much
it's like
better.
they've got it reversed. Notre
I
Dame
think this
does
is going to
better
be
on
a
the
great
road or something.
game. I think it's going to be a great
Oh yeah.
game. Um,
You know what
Louisville
it
is
is?
coming off. Louisville is coming off of a good win against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech did put 19 points on them. Not crazy, but Georgia Tech is also Georgia Tech. So
They're not
I
horrible this year though.
Yeah, but I think Riley Leonard is going to. I think Riley Leonard and Haynes King are very similar in play style, and I think that Riley Leonard is going to have the better protection and better opportunities opened up for his team. But I do think, funny enough, I'm going to believe in the South Bend Juju. I think Louisville comes in there and really keeps it close. But I think I'm going to take Notre Dame to win this game just because of defense and Riley Leonard. I think he's going to have a lot of ground success. I think we take Riley Leonard and the Fighting Irish. Stupid name. I'm sorry, Notre Dame fans. I'm a bit of a
Whoa,
hater.
whoa, whoa. We're gonna get
Uniform. I like the
canceled.
uniforms though. Notre Dame's got good uniforms. Love their uniforms. But anyways, I'll take them to win. I think they win by 6 over Louisville.
Notre
So,
Dame by 6. I think that's fair. I think yeah, that's weird how Notre Dame has that like backwards juju. They do better on the road. You know what I was
but
going
it's
to say
crazy.
is, you
I'm
know what that
taking
is?
Notre Dame though. You would think I wouldn't because of my feelings in
Yeah,
Notre Dame, but
that's
I
kind
think
of
they.
kind of crazy.
But
I think it's
I
just
do think
because
they pull them out.
Louisville it doesn't look all that crazy either. I think Louisville is one
I
of those
think just
teams where we're
because
getting a little ahead of ourselves.
Haynes King had success on the ground against Louisville, and Riley Leonard just that, but like he's even better on the ground than Haynes King. So
So taking Notre Dame by 6. You know what? You know why you don't get the home field advantage? Why the juju at home field is reversed for you, Notre Dame? Because you're not part of a conference. No conference, no home field advantage. But
oh,
anyway,
speaking of that, he's gonna be at the Bama and Georgia game. So
no,
hopefully that's
really.
bad juju for Bama.
I don't know.
Maybe he'll like maybe the field will set on fire when he steps in on the in the box or whatever. So
Maybe, but we can't get too deep into that one because we don't want uh to mess up the juju or just
what's
get
the
hate
next
mail.
game? So what's the next game?
um so uh the next one I guess is Illinois at Penn State.
Okay, this
And this
one
is the last one we talk about before the game of the week.
okay, so I guess I talked about the last one. It should go.
Illinois
You're an
looks
Illinois
like a
fan.
Illinois looks like a decent team. I just I like teams that are underrated and don't get a lot of love. I'm just an underdog fan. Um, and I'm gonna tell you right now, we hadn't made one today, so I'm just gonna go ahead and ring the bell on this one. Do we have a bell for this? Do we have a bell? Let me see.
Nope,
Uh, thank
that's the
you. Do we have? I know what I'm doing. Uh, this is our bell today.
I'm assuming this
Upset
means yeah.
alert. Upset alert. All
All
right.
right, we're
So
upset
I'm
alert
calling for
here.
an upset. Okay. Because here's the thing. I do think Illinois is one of those teams maybe people are getting a little ahead of themselves on, but they're still a good
Same
team.
thing with Penn State.
And yeah, I was just about to say, I think Penn State, we're for sure getting ahead of ourselves on. I haven't seen anything top tier elite from Penn State. I don't think they're top tier elite. I think they're a preseason princess, just as we talked about with, between them and Notre Dame, the two most popular preseason princesses. You like that alliteration? I hope you do, because Illinois is beating PSU. Um,
And hey,
because
look,
here's the thing:
Illinois defense has
Illinois
looked solid too. So
Illinois is a balanced team. They get it done. They've got good game management. They've got talent on both sides of the ball. And even though they're playing at Penn State, which is a tough place to play, let's not get it twisted. That's a tough place to play. I think Penn State's going to get a little too comfortable with themselves, and Illinois is going to have some underdog fuel. And I think they're going to go in there and give Penn State a hard time. Um, I'm taking the ill.
the Fighting
Uh,
Illini.
I'm taking the ill by 3. I think Illinois upsets Penn State in their home turf. I think they do it by 3 points, even if it's by a game-winning field goal, because I think Penn State's going to have their handful. I don't think they're going to move the ball like they think they're going to against
Okay.
Illinois, and I think Illinois is going to move it better than people think. Um, I'm taking Illinois upset by 3.
I think this is a pretty fun, Big Ten opener for Penn State. So
Yeah, and they're playing against what I don't think is a top-tier team, but it is a good team, competitive. So this will be somewhat of a test for them, and I think Illinois is going to have something for them. I
I think
think
Penn
it's
State's
about to
actually
get
a
ill
massive
in Penn
favorite, though.
State.
Penn State is a massive favorite. They're like a 19-point favorite, which
Oh, is that what they think?
that.
That's a little crazy, honestly.
So it'd be pretty cool if they upset them.
We'll see. But now we have to talk about the game of the week for both us and both College Game Day, which the whole world pretty much understands what this game is.
And this is one we got to go real in depth on.
Georgia at Bama.
The boogeyman.
But guess what? Saban ain't there no more. So what do we think about this matchup now with a first year new head coach?
I think that kind of gets lost though because it is Kalen DeBoer, a coach who just went to the national championship last year. So and beat Dan Lanning twice. So
But has he played Kirby Smart's Dogs or a team anything like Kirby Smart's Dogs? Because
no,
that's a whole nother
had he
bar we're
had the
talking
talent
about.
he
Let's
had
be
at
real.
Washington, I think he's getting beat up, but he's inherited pretty good team. So
So you're saying that you got Alabama as trust fund fans more or less, but now DeBoer is a trust fund coach,
pretty
basically.
much. I mean, like you're coming. He's a great coach, but he's a great coach coming in and feeding off of what Saban built. So it's
Yeah,
like
pretty much. I mean,
I
I
don't think it's
agree.
all that difficult. It's like that's where I think the difference in like expecting Kalen DeBoer to go like 7-5 is because just like Kirby did his first year. Well, Kirby went 7-5 his first year because he was picking off what Mark Rick left off, and good team, but like Mark Rick went 9-3, so it only makes sense. Okay, well if your head coach you've had for 20 years is going 9-3, then a brand new head coach. In fact, he had never been a head coach up to this point. He's a head coach first ever year. He goes 7-5. That makes sense. But then he goes to the national championship next year. Kalen DeBoer, though, is a good coach. Has always been a good coach. Kept a solid team at Washington. Any team he played at, he made him good. So obviously, I think Kirby Smart is the better coach because Kirby Smart is the championship head coach leading into this. DeBoer doesn't have a championship. Kirby's got 2. I just
And Kirby's a little more acclimated to those big stage games too, truthfully.
I just have to go. This one is so
Here,
difficult.
what I'll say is you give a pick and I'll give a pick. Like we'll both do 2 separate picks for this one.
Okay, well, I'll go into detail, kind of give my. So this is my thought process through it all. I'm going to go straight into my thought process because I think everybody has talked about the same things of, okay, Georgia struggle. I don't think Georgia struggling against Kentucky is necessarily the biggest thing because Alabama struggled against USF. The problem with Georgia struggling with Kentucky is that we lost Georgia lost Tate Ratledge. They they got dominated by Kentucky on the line. I don't think they're going to get dominated, funny enough, as much by Kentucky as they did Alabama because I think they're going to be more prepared. I think it is all. This game is 100%. I think it's 100%, 100% up to Bobo because I'm going to tell you right now, USF found a lot of openings in that Alabama defense that they just couldn't capitalize off of. I think Carson Beck can capitalize off of those, but can Mike Bobo open up those offensive schemes? And can we protect Carson Beck enough and at least get some kind of run game going? We need at least 3 yards a carry to win this game, I think. So I keep saying we. I'm trying not to, but we're Georgia fans, so it kind of just comes out. But
Yeah,
um,
if you've watched the previous episodes, we've already made that disclaimer. Georgia
I
fans.
I just I just because I watched, being fans, we've watched them. I know what these players are capable of. They talk about explosive receivers. I don't think the explosivity is the issue here. I think it is just Bobo's management of the game. I don't think we need a player to step out and go absolutely ape crap and just bring down the house and have 400 receiving yards or whatever. It's like I just think we need to have a good game plan that gets Carson Beck comfortable and gets the running game going. I think that's all Georgia really needs to win this game because I think the talent is pretty equal. And I think if Bobo can open up that midfield and deeper, I think that Carson Beck can throw all over Bama because it's a young secondary that got exposed against USF. It was that got they got exposed. USF just couldn't capitalize. I think Georgia can capitalize because if you leave a 25-yard pass play open, Beck's hitting it right on the money. I know people are hating on Beck right now because that Kentucky game, but I think Bobo is the core. Mike Bobo had a terrible game plan, and Carson Beck could not get comfortable. He couldn't get warmed up. And I'm going to tell you now, I think Jordan Hare is super difficult. Carson Beck has been at Jordan Hare. I think Jordan Hare, you can say what you want because Bama has struggled at Jordan Hare every year too. I think Georgia, Beck having that experience in Jordan Hare is going to help him so much because he played cool, calm, and collected and went out there and won that game like he should have. I think he's going to do just fine in T-Town. I don't think home field advantage is the issue here. I just think that I'm most worried about our ability to win the line of scrimmage and Bobo's play calling. And I am going to, my heart says Georgia, but my mind, because I truly don't have the faith in Mike Bobo right now. He hasn't proven anything to me yet that is going to give me that makes me think that Georgia has the advantage. I think
Don't
Bama
do it.
wins this one. I do. So I think they win. I think Bama.
Ah.
I only think they win by maybe a field goal or 6 points, maybe one or two field goals. I think they win, or by like a touchdown that is, like gives them a 6 point lead or something. I think it's going to be an extremely close game. I don't think either team's blowing out the other. But I think Alabama, because I think Alabama. I just think Bobo is going to cause a defensive down spiral in that second half, and I think that Bama is going to be able to break a big play with one of their receivers, and that's going to be what seals the deal, I think. So, and then of course, I think by that point you get to that fourth quarter, same story as SEC championship. Milroe is going to be using his legs. I don't think Milroe is going to run all over Georgia, period, that whole game because he really didn't against Georgia. And I think they talk about, well, he had 65 rushing yards minus the sacks, but it's like you got to count the sacks. I mean, he had 65 rushing yards, yeah, but he also was sacked 4 times. So it goes to show, like, if you can get sacks, those rushing yards don't matter all that much if you keep bringing them back anyways with sacks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're going to get to Milroe. I think Georgia's going to get to Milroe. I think Jalen Walker's going to have a great game. It's Bobo. I'm not worried about the defense. I'm not worried. I think Georgia is going to do just fine defensively until that fourth quarter. I think when Bama needs to they get that last touchdown off of like a dump off to Ryan Williams or maybe a bomb to Ryan Williams. I think they get that touchdown, and I think Bama controls the game from there. And I think defense is gassed, and Milroe is able to just pick up the needed first downs. I think we have a repeat pretty much of what that SEC championship is.
What
I
are you
just think
taking them
minus the
by?
turnovers. I'm gonna say I'll take them by the 6. I'll take Bama by the 6. So I think they win by 6.
Look at
That's
this.
it.
Look at this kid. Chase picks Bama to win it by 6. Okay, all right. Well,
I know
I'm
all the
gonna give
Georgia
my
fans in the
opinion.
comments. Trust me, my heart wants to say Georgia. I want them to win. I'm going to be rooting for Georgia. I'm going to be screaming and yelling at the TV to make sure Georgia's doing what they're supposed to. But I just don't have the faith in Mike Bobo. I got all the faith in Kirby Smart, but I don't have any faith in Mike Bobo as an offensive
All right.
coordinator.
Well,
And Kalen DeBoer is an offensive head coach. So
I'm
I
about to.
think
Okay.
they're going to
Well,
move
I'll
him
give
in
my
too.
take on it because I'm tired of listening to you and your picking of Bama. So first of all,
I
first
hope
of
I'm
all,
wrong.
I have to redo that banner.
Bammer. I got to redo the Bammer.
Bama Bammer. Okay. So here's the thing. As we talked about, we already laid down the foundation of yes, DeBoer is a first year head coach. Saban's no longer there, which I think there's a lot of implications to that. But I guess we'll just save that storyline and just go ahead and say DeBoer has inherited a experienced, Saban built, very talented team, and DeBoer, I believe, knows how to use it. Um, so I'm not going to hinge too much on the no Saban, no win, narrative. I think not having Saban is still important because it's always been this way. Georgia and Alabama, roster wise and team wise, the talent has always been matched man to man. It's always, almost always, only maybe once they got the better of us badly, but it's always been ever since Kirby's, established himself and developed this program at Georgia. It's always been matched on that roster, man for man. The talent matched across the board. What has always decided the game's outcome seems to have been Saban just got the better of Kirby in his coaching decisions, and maybe one or two, decisions by Saban's staff over Kirby's staff, which is important because we talk about Bobo. And as you said, I think Kirby at the end of the day, if it comes down to two talented rosters being matched up in a close fight, and I think it's going to be a close fight, I think Kirby's going to cause it to lean in Georgia's favor. I think coaching decisions. I think Kirby having the experience as a elite program head coach, and arguably just a better head coach right now because DeBoer has a lot more to prove before he can stake claim to being competitive with Kirby on the coaching, standpoint. I think it's going to come down to coaching, and I think Kirby and his head coaching decisions and his defensive staff are going to be fine. And I'm going to return to a point you made. People are tired of hearing it. Yes, I know people are tired of hearing it, and maybe Georgia fans are tired of hearing it too. But the proof is in the pudding. We've already said before, whenever Georgia struggles, whenever Georgia slows, whenever they can't find their groove and their offense is not doing what it's supposed to do, it's because of bad play calling and offensive coordination being lackluster. Mike Bobo is going to be the determinant of the Alabama game. Mike Bobo's offense, because obviously it's a team effort. Both sides of the ball have to play, but I trust that defense. Georgia's defense, I've said it before, I believe is the best in the country. I trust that defense. I don't think Alabama's going to have their way with this defense. The line, it starts and ends at the line of scrimmage, and there's a lot of questions there at the line of scrimmage. But Alabama's offensive line has been suspect all year, and Georgia's D line, they're going to get in that backfield. They should anyway. They're going to get in that backfield. They're going to cause trouble.
I would agree with that, but it just always seems that Alabama just are a different O line when they play Georgia. And I know maybe
I
that's
think a
because
lot
of
of that has to do
Saban,
with Saban.
but I think it's a pride thing too. I think it's a pick 'em. I picked Alabama by 6, but I'm not entirely sure. I just have more confidence in picking Bama. Two reasons because I've had nothing to show me that Georgia is definitely going to be the better team and beat them, and also because a hope type of thing. I'd rather have my hopes low and Georgia go in there and beat up on them, or just win and be valid, and they finally validate like, okay, maybe it was Saban the whole time, because that's what this whole game is. It's that narrative. It's the can Kirby Smart, is it a Saban problem or is it a Bama problem? And obviously, as a Georgia fan, I pray to God it's just a Saban problem, and we don't continue to be Bama's, female dog, so to speak.
Well, calling it a
So,
Bama problem, there's no evidence to support that because Kirby's Georgia has only played Nick Saban's Alabama. I think it hinges on Nick Saban being Kirby's, you know, better. to put it
I
simply,
and it upsets me too because,
because it's
like,
always come down to that every
well,
time.
it comes down to that, and then not only that, but it also, in this case, Georgia has to try and prove that it was a Saban problem by going to T-Town. And while I don't think Carson Beck's going to have trouble in T-Town, I think the team as a whole, it's going to affect him. It always does. I'm sorry, people could say what they want about like home field advantage. It is always going to make a difference when you have 98,000 fans screaming at you. Like, it's going to make a difference.
Well,
It does. Ask Tennessee when they came to Athens. It made a
it makes a
difference.
difference, but let me finish my side of the story. We're running out of time anyway. We got to finish here quick. But roster versus roster, coach versus coach. I think the only weak point for Georgia is Mike Bobo's game plan. But Mike Bobo is kind of a little bipolar on that. Sometimes he has an excellent game plan, and the question is, did having a bad game plan at Kentucky, is that going to cause a lessons learned moment to cause him to throw the playbook at the wall at Alabama? Because they're really going to have to. You got to beat this Bama team, Kirby.
I
Y'all
hope
got
so.
to beat this Bama
That's what
team.
you got to do. You
Um,
have to.
you have to. You got to stop losing to this Bama team. And I'm just going to have in good faith that it was just because it was Saban. Saban made the difference, and I believe that's what it was because it seems to what it all came down to. But
There's other
I
factors
think,
too, though. I mean, it's still kind of the same team that Bama or Georgia lost to last year, and it is in T Town. So I don't think it automatically weighs all on the cusp of, oh, well, you just can't beat Bama. Period. It's like, okay,
but
well, give Georgia the benefit of the doubt.
well, look,
They're having to play in Alabama. Like
let me
it's a
lean
favorable situation for Alabama no matter what. So
more or less, but let me lean into this because both coaches have a lot to prove, both teams, and maybe. And the thing about it is, I think
there's
at the
nothing
end
to
of the
prove for DeBoer. Let me say, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I know I cannot stand the argument that DeBoer has a bunch to lose or that he has something to prove. No, he doesn't. You go in there and you keep a close game against Georgia. You've done your job as a first year head coach at a country. Because my thing is, I see Kalen DeBoer lose this game by a touchdown. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. Kirby Smart's an established head coach at Georgia, and he is the head coach. Just won 2 championships back to back the year, like a year ago or a little over a year ago. It's like Kalen DeBoer is a brand new head coach who's never won a national championship. I don't expect him to go in there and beat Georgia. Like I don't
I
expect
think
that.
I think that's important that you brought that up
If he gets
because
blown out, that's different because okay,
I
you don't
think the
need to be getting
media
blown out.
I think these storylines that these media outlets are throwing out there trying to make DeBoer out to be the one. I said DeBoer has a lot to prove, and I only said that just because, he's the new head coach in T-Town for Alabama. I'm more so saying that for the fan base because how Alabama's fan base is, and their expectations. So DeBoer is going to be under the gun from them in this situation. But I think this whole storyline about more being on the line for DeBoer or even the
No, not
equal
whatsoever.
amount being on the line for DeBoer, I think that's a
Not
tiring
even
storyline.
close.
This this game. Kirby Smart has everything to prove against Alabama in T-Town in this game. Maybe not in terms of his value outside of the Alabama Georgia matchup, but Kirby has a lot more to prove. There's a lot more weighing on Kirby and Georgia's shoulders. But I'll say this: T-Town, okay, Tuscaloosa seems like a favorable situation, but a lot of people say this is bad for Georgia because they have to try and cause the reckoning in Tuscaloosa. I say, what better place? And I bet Kirby Smart is thinking and saying the same thing to his players. What better place than to do it than on their home turf?
It's different
And
about what better than the difficulty's still there.
true. So I think that with the talent being as matched as it is, okay, I think Kirby, DeBoer in Alabama, they're in a favorable spot with Kirby coming to their town. And like we said, it's going to be hard, you know, but what better place to do it? And I think this Georgia team, and I think Kirby Smart, very capable of doing it. Um, I don't. I'm kind of tired of the counting Georgia out, um, because I think this Georgia team is going to come play their best football in Tuscaloosa, and I think they're a better team. I think they're a better team. And if they play, even if both teams play their best football, I think Georgia gets the better of it because I think Georgia's a better team. Um, so, you know, I think I think the reckoning will come. I'll just put it this way. I think the reckoning will come. I think Kirby will finally shut up all the naysayers and the media and get rid of this shadow that Saban's Bama has cast over him, at least for now. I think the dogs are going to go into Tuscaloosa and make a statement. It's going to be a hard fought game. It's going to be a hard fought close game for most of four quarters. Um, but you know, I'm going to have good faith and assume that Bobo calls a good game. And if even things change and he has to adjust his game plan, because I think that's where Bobo struggles the most is with his game plan adjustment, is making adjustments. But giving him good faith and they play their best football, I think Georgia wins. I'm taking Georgia to win this because I'm tired of people counting Georgia out on this because everybody is for the most part basing this on, okay, well, Georgia always loses to Alabama and they're going to Tuscaloosa, so they're going to lose. No. I think Kirby is. I think they've. I think they're going to be obviously play their best football. It's not going to look like they did against Kentucky. Um, I think they're going to make a statement because Kirby and the Dogs, they have a lot to prove in this game, and I think they will. And it's going to be a close game, hard fought, but I'm taking UGA to win by 10. I
Oh
think
wow.
they win. I think in the fourth quarter, I think Georgia starts to pull away. I think the defense starts to make big stops. Alabama has to go 3 and out. They're not able to get any more scores going, and I think Georgia capitalizes on that and kind of runs away with the score, at least with another field goal and a touchdown ahead of Alabama by the end of the game. I'm taking the Dogs by 10 because, you know, the Dogs love it when you count them out. They love it when you count them out. And yeah, you know, Saban always got the better of the Dogs, but Saban's gone, and I'm not going to make it all about that. But I think the Dogs got it. I think they're going to win this game. And I'm pretty sure I said all I wanted to say about it. I think there was something that I was going to say I was missing. I'm not sure, but I think I said everything I needed to say about it. I'm taking Georgia by 10 because I think Georgia's a more balanced team. And I think with having Kirby Smart at the helm and having that mental edge that I believe Georgia's going to have going into this game, I think. And you know what? We assume it's going to be a close, hard fought game. But with the way Milrose's talking and the way the players are talking, about Georgia and the way they're kind of cruising along right now, Georgia might catch them sleepwalking, and they just might put a beating on them. So
I would love that
we'll
as a
see.
fan, but
I
I
would
don't see
hope
that
that to
happening.
be the
So
case, but
I know everybody wants a good game,
but
but
I'm
obviously, as a fan who has witnessed this Georgia team, Kirby's Georgia, just keep falling to Bama, I think I just don't care at this point. If we get a 42-10 Georgia win, which isn't going to happen, but if we do, I'd be happy. So, but
I mean, it's going to be a good game, but I think Georgia's going to come out on top. Stop counting Georgia out. Stop it.
all right.
I'm tired of it.
Well, hopefully they'll prove you right, Cameron, aka Iowa Steak.
Iowa State.
So,
Thank you, my co-host, Kalen the Boar, which I bet they will be tomorrow
all right.
because
Well, we'll see.
don't count the dogs out because they love it when you count them out. But anyway, this has been week 5 preview and picks episode from the Talk Ons, and hopefully, maybe we will be able to be a little more consistent with our episodes. But a little bit of a heads up. If per se, considering the nature of our fandom that we've disclosed, if per se Alabama does happen to win, you may not hear from us again.
You may never hear from us ever again.
You may not hear from us ever
You may
again.
you may be finding our obituary online. Anyways,
It can't be like this anymore. But anyway, I mean,
we can't handle it.
we're not gonna we're just gonna accept what it is. But I mean, we may take a week off or something because we may still be pretty salty. But we're gonna try to stay consistent. We're not, obviously we're joking. We want to be more consistent. We did a little better with the time today. We still went longer than we wanted to, but we shaved off 30 minutes average from the last two
Yeah.
episodes. So hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of the Talk On show and what we had to talk about. This has been Iowa Steak.
And Kalen the Boar.
And we looking forward to a lot of good football this week. And we hope to be able to talk about a lot of good stuff next week after the game when we have our reviews and re-ranking episode. So stay tuned, subscribe. Peace out.
All right. Thank you guys.
Go now.